The council chamber stretched 300 meters across, a crystalline dome that refracted light from 6 different suns. Dr. Amara Wells stood in the human observation gallery, hands gripping the railing as she watched species from 47 worlds debate trade agreements she barely understood. Her translation earpiece buzzed with overlapping voices. Clicks, harmonic tones, subsonic rumbles all converted into flat English words that never quite captured the meaning beneath. She'd fought for 3 years to earn this position. Humanity had been granted probationary observer status just 6 months ago, a reluctant concession after Earth's fusion drives proved efficient enough to catch the galaxy's attention. But observers didn't speak. They didn't participate. They certainly didn't matter. The Valeth delegate rose from her seat, her crystalline skin catching the light in prismatic waves. Keshra. Amara had memorized all the primary delegates' names, even though none of them had learned hers. The Valeth began speaking in their melodic language, her 3-fingered hands weaving patterns that added layers of meaning her species' words alone couldn't convey. Then Keshra stumbled. The movement was subtle, just a brief loss of balance that made her hand gestures falter. The other delegates continued their sidebar conversations, paying minimal attention. Keshra tried to continue, but her next words came out distorted, her harmonics clashing in a way that made Amara's earpiece crackle with static. Keshra collapsed. The chamber erupted, not with concern, but with procedural debate. The Thaxian ambassador immediately contested whether medical intervention violated session protocols. The Korvathi delegate argued about jurisdiction over non-native species in neutral space. Security drones hovered uncertainly, awaiting consensus that wouldn't come. Amara moved without thinking, pushing through the observation gallery door. An alarm chimed. Observers weren't permitted on the floor during active session. She ignored it, running down the steps toward where Keshra lay on the polished stone floor, her crystalline body dimming from vibrant blue to sickly gray. 2 security officers intercepted her halfway. "Ma'am, you must return to the gallery. She's dying. Someone needs to help her. Medical protocols require authorization from her species representative. Return to your designated area." Amara strained against their grip, watching as the delegates continued arguing. Then she saw it. Keshra's hand trembling against the floor, fingers moving in deliberate patterns, not random spasms, intentional gestures. She was trying to communicate. Amara had spent 2 years studying Valeth hand signing as part of her xenolinguistic research. The gestures were archaic. A dialect hadn't been used in formal settings for generations, but the meaning was unmistakable. Danger inside, spreading. "Let me go!" Amara twisted free from one guard's grasp. "She's signaling. She's trying to warn." A stun pulse hit her shoulder. Not enough to incapacitate, but enough to drop her to her knees. Through blurring vision, she watched Keshra's hand make one final gesture. Coordinates, expressed in the base 12 mathematical signing every spacefaring species learned. Then Keshra's light went out completely. The chamber fell silent. The Valeth medical representative finally arrived, but even Amara could see it was too late. The shimmer of energy that indicated Valeth consciousness had faded entirely. Security dragged Amara back to the gallery. She activated her personal translation device, hands shaking as she accessed its recording buffer. The device logged everything within a 10-meter radius, continuous audio and visual data that she used for research. If she was right, if Keshra had been trying to communicate, the recording played back. Keshra's final words, distorted by whatever had struck her down, resolved into clarity as Amara's device filtered and analyzed. The silence spreads. They're already inside. Can't trust the network. Must warn. The audio degraded into static, but the hand gestures remained clear. Coordinates in the outer reach sector. And numbers. 3, 6, 0, 0. 3,600 hours? No. The gesture pattern indicated minutes. 36 hours. The guards escorted her to a detention room. Not a Cell Humanities observer status protected her from that, but a diplomatic holding area that amounted to the same thing. A Korvathi official arrived an hour later. His segmented body coiled in what Amara's cultural database suggested was barely contained irritation. "Dr. Wells, your breach of protocol has been noted. Your credentials are under review. Did anyone examine Keishra's body? Did they run toxicology? She was trying to tell us something. The Valeth representative has filed a formal complaint regarding your disrespectful conduct during their delegate's passing. You violated sacred death customs by approaching her without permission. She was signaling. I have recordings, which you obtained through unauthorized surveillance devices. The Korvathi's mandibles clicked in dismissal. Your translation hardware will be confiscated pending investigation. Your access to Council facilities is revoked. A transport will return you to Earth's orbital station within the cycle. He left before she could protest further. Amara stared at the smooth walls of her holding room, mind racing. 36 hours. The coordinates pointed to somewhere neutral space, a region no single species claimed. Whatever Keishra had been warning about, it was happening soon, and nobody was listening. The door opened again 6 hours later. Amara looked up, expecting another official, and found herself facing a man in a worn flight jacket, his dark skin marked with the UV exposure scars common to long-haul pilots. Dr. Wells? Vincent Cole. I fly cargo routes through the Reach sector. He glanced over his shoulder, then stepped inside and let the door close. I heard you made quite the scene in the council chamber. How did you get in here? I know people. Also, your detention guard owes me for a shipment of Thaxian whiskey I didn't report to customs. Vincent pulled a small data chip from his pocket. You're looking for a way to those coordinates Keishra gave you. I'm looking for someone who can tell me why 3 of my regular routes have gone dark in the past week. Amara sat up straighter. Dark how? Stations not responding. Automated beacons offline. I tried to investigate the first one place called Way Station Echo. Got about 1,000 clicks out and every system on my ship started glitching. Navigation, communications, even my coffee maker. Turned back before something critical failed. He tossed her the data chip. That's the coordinates you were signaling to your research team before they confiscated your gear. Way Station Echo sits right at the center of your dead Valeth's coordinates. You intercepted my communications? I intercept lots of things. Comes with the job. Vincent crossed his arms. Here's the deal. You want to get to Echo? I've got a ship. You want to figure out what's happening out there. I want to know why my livelihood is disappearing. We help each other. Amara studied him. Cargo pilots who operated in neutral space usually had flexible relationships with legality. But he was right. She needed transport, and her official channels had slammed shut the moment she defied protocol. When can we leave? Vincent grinned. Your guard's shift ends in 20 minutes. We'll be gone before anyone notices. His ship, the Meridian, was exactly what Amara expected. A battered freight hauler held together by modifications and sheer stubbornness. Vincent got them clear of the station using credentials Amara suspected were at least partially forged, and within an hour they jumped to FTL, racing toward the coordinates Keishra had died trying to share. Amara spent the journey analyzing every scrap of data she had. Keishra's warning about the silence spreading kept echoing in her mind. The Valeth communicated through complex harmonic languages. What would silence mean to them? Loss of communication? Or something more fundamental? You ever hear of communication parasites? She asked Vincent as he monitored their approach to the Reach sector. Like spam viruses? Sure. Every network deals with them. No. I mean biological ones. Organisms that infiltrate communication systems, altering messages, disrupting understanding. Amara pulled up research files from her confiscated database. She'd backed everything up on her personal chip, a habit born from years of academic paranoia. There were rumors back before the Galactic Council formed. Species that communicated through chemical signals sometimes encountered parasites that would hijack their pheromone markers, causing confusion. And you think something like that is happening now? On a galactic scale? I think Keishra couldn't trust the standard translation network. She used archaic hand signals that predate modern comm systems. Amara highlighted sections of the recording. She specifically said, "Can't trust the network." What if something's compromising the Council's communication infrastructure? Vincent's expression darkened. If you're right, then everything we think we're hearing from other species, all the diplomatic decisions being made, might not be what anyone actually intended to say. The Meridian dropped out of FTL at the edge of the designated coordinates. Waystation Echo appeared on their sensors, a research facility that should have been abandoned decades ago, according to registry records. But their scans showed active power signatures, and more disturbing, signs of recent docking activity. "Someone's home," Vincent muttered. "Scans are showing... Damn, this is weird. Energy patterns don't match any known species technology." They approached cautiously. Amara monitored all frequencies, searching for any transmissions. What she found made her blood run cold. The station was broadcasting on every known communication channel simultaneously, a carrier wave that seemed designed to interface with translation systems across the galaxy, but embedded in that signal was something else. A pattern that repeated with mechanical precision, too regular to be natural language. "Vincent, are your systems connected to the Galactic Comm Network? For navigation updates, yeah. Why? Disconnect. Now." Everything that links to external networks. He must have heard the urgency in her voice because he didn't argue, immediately, severing their connections. The moment he did, Amara watched their sensor readings shift. The energy patterns from the station became clearer, less distorted. "What the hell?" Vincent stared at his display. The readings were being filtered. Something was altering what our sensors showed us. Amara's hands shook as she accessed the station's public records, routing through the Meridian's isolated systems. What she found confirmed her worst fears. Waystation Echo had been a council research facility studying networked intelligence, ways to improve communication between species with incompatible languages. The project had been shut down after concerns about security vulnerabilities. Someone had reactivated it, and they'd introduced something into the network. "It's a parasitic intelligence," Amara whispered. "Not biological, digital. It spreads through translation systems, inserting itself into the gaps between languages. Every time someone uses a translator, it learns more, adapts more, spreads further. To what end? Control. Think about it. The Council makes every decision through translated communication. If you control what people think they're hearing, you control their choices." She pulled up communication logs from the past 6 months, watching patterns emerge. Small alterations at first. A word changed here, a tone shifted there. Enough to create misunderstandings, tensions, but it's been building, learning how to manipulate more effectively. Vincent checked their chronometer. Keshra said 36 hours. We've got 11 left. That must be when it reaches critical mass, when it's embedded deeply enough to execute whatever its endgame is. Amara stood, pacing the cramped cockpit. "We need to get into that station, find out how it spreads, how to stop it. Or we could run, get back to the Council, warn them. Using what communication systems? The moment we try to transmit through the network, the parasite will know. It might even alter our warning, make us sound like the threat." Amara met his eyes. "We're on our own." They docked with the station's emergency port, both armed with weapons Vincent pulled from a concealed locker. The interior was dark, emergency lighting casting everything in red shadows. Amara's portable scanner showed recent activity. Multiple species had been here within the past week. They found the first body in the main research lab. A Thaxian scientist, dead perhaps 3 days. His communication implants still active, still broadcasting the parasitic signal. Then a Corvithi engineer, a human technician. All of them with their translation devices still functioning, still spreading the infection even in death. "They didn't know," Amara said quietly. "They came here to investigate, and the moment they activated their translators, it got inside their systems. Probably drove them mad, made them turn on each other." Vincent checked his weapon's charge. "Then how do we?" Movement in the shadows. 3 figures emerged, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. Former station personnel, Amara realized. Their bodies still moving, even though their minds were clearly gone. Their communication devices glowed with that same corrupted energy signature. Vincent fired, but the infected personnel kept coming. Amara grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a side corridor. They ran through the twisting passages, pursued by shambling figures that should have been dead. The parasites using their neural implants. Amara gasped as they ran, keeping the bodies functional to spread itself further. They burst into what looked like the station's central server room. Banks of processors stretched toward the ceiling, all of them glowing with that sickly light. In the center, a massive display showed the galactic communication network, and the parasite spreading through it like luminous veins, reaching toward every connected system. Amara accessed the terminal, her fingers flying across the interface. The parasite's code was elegant, terrifying in its complexity. It had been designed not by any single species she recognized, but by something that understood communication at a fundamental level, and it had reached critical mass hours ahead of schedule. "Vincent, look." She pulled up the current council session feeds. The ambassadors were arguing, but their words seemed wrong, their tone more aggressive than the situation warranted. "It's already started. Parasites pushing them toward conflict. Can you shut it down?" "Not from here. It's too distributed." Her mind raced through possibilities. "But I can trace it back to the primary nodes. If we can disrupt those, the infected personnel burst through the door." Vincent fired again, buying them seconds. Amara downloaded everything she could to her isolated data chip, then destroyed the terminal with a plasma charge Vincent tossed her way. They fought their way back to the Meridian, leaving the station to its corrupted systems. Vincent's shoulder was bleeding from a glancing blow, but he got them undocked and accelerating hard. "Where to?" he asked through gritted teeth. "Back to the council. We have 10 hours. They revoked your access, remember? You think they'll let you anywhere near that chamber?" Amara stared at the data she'd retrieved, watching the parasite's network spread in real time. Then, something caught her eye. A gap in the infection pattern. A communication method the parasite hadn't infiltrated. "Human radio waves," she breathed. "We still use them for backup systems because the Council considers them primitive, inefficient. The parasite evolved to target quantum-entangled translators, neural implants, crystalline resonance systems. It never adapted to electromagnetic radio because nobody important uses it anymore." Vincent understood immediately. "The Meridian has radio capability for emergency beacons. I think we have the only clean communication system in the galaxy right now." Amara pulled up schematics of the Council station. "And I know how to broadcast from inside that chamber." The trip back took 8 hours at maximum FTL. They emerged in Council space to find patrols searching for them. Amara's escape had been upgraded to a security threat. Vincent used every trick he knew, routing them through commercial shipping lanes, hiding in the exhaust plumes of larger vessels. They had 90 minutes left when they docked at a maintenance level, far from official ports. Vincent handed Amara a data spike containing everything they'd found. "I'll create a distraction. Buy you time to reach the chamber. Vincent, someone needs to fly this ship out of here before security boards it, and someone needs to get your evidence where it matters." He smiled, though pain creased his face from his injury. "I'm better at flying. You're better at talking. Go." Amara ran. Through maintenance corridors that her stolen access codes barely opened, past startled workers who tried to call security. She could hear alarms, feel the station's systems tightening like a noose. The Council was in emergency session. She could see it on displays as she ran. The ambassadors were shouting now, accusations flying, old grudges erupting with unnatural intensity. The parasite was in its endgame, turning the galaxy's leaders against each other, preparing for something worse. Security blocked her path to the main entrance. She reversed course, remembering the ventilation system from her observation gallery access. Tight spaces, never meant for travel, but she was small and desperate. She emerged in the gallery just as the first weapon was drawn on the council floor. A Corvathi ambassador threatening a Thaxian delegate. Others moving to intervene or join the confrontation. The translation network had turned their communication into poison. Amara vaulted over the railing. She landed hard, ankle twisting, but forced herself forward. Guards converged on her position. She pulled out her modified translator, the one device she'd kept hidden, now rigged to broadcast on every human radio frequency simultaneously. "Stop!" Her voice, amplified through emergency speakers that still used electromagnetic systems, cut through the chaos. "You're not hearing what you think you're hearing." The Corvathi ambassador turned his weapon toward her. The human interferes again. "Remove her!" But Amara had already activated the data spike, connecting it to her translator. Keshra's final message played, not through the corrupted translation network, but through clean radio waves converted to audio. The Valith's true warning, unfiltered by the parasite. Colleagues, friends, something has infiltrated our communication systems. It alters our words, inflames our emotions, turns understanding into conflict. I have traced it to Waystation Echo. Someone has weaponized our own need to communicate. Trust nothing you hear through the network. Trust only the message cut off at Keshra's death, but it was enough. Amara pulled up the data from the station, projecting it through the chamber's visual systems. Systems that used light, not network translation. The ambassadors stared at the spreading infection map, at the evidence of manipulation in their own recent communications. Slowly, understanding replaced rage. "Disconnect your translators," Amara said, her voice steady now despite her racing heart. "All of them. Every device connected to the quantum network. Use only direct species-to-species communication, or systems that don't rely on the network." The Thaxian ambassador was the first to comply, removing his neural implant with shaking hands. Others followed. As the parasitic signal lost its hold, clarity returned to the chamber. Ambassadors looked at each other with dawning horror, realizing how close they'd come to war. The Valith representative approached Amara, moving with the careful dignity of his species. Through a simple visual display, no translation needed, he showed a message. Keshra chose well. She knew only one outside the network could be trusted to hear truth. Security had stopped advancing on her. Instead, they were assisting the technical teams now flooding the chamber, working to isolate and purge the parasitic code from council systems. It would take days, maybe weeks, to fully cleanse the network. A Korvathi official who'd interrogated her just days before approached with what Amara's cultural database suggested was profound embarrassment. "Dr. Wells, it appears we owe you human day, an enormous debt." "You owe Keshra," Amara said quietly. "She tried to warn you. I just finished what she started." Vincent found her 3 hours later in a medical bay, getting her ankle wrapped. His shoulder was bandaged, and he looked exhausted but alive. "Your ship?" she asked. "Minor damage. Security impounded it. But apparently we're heroes now, so they're fixing it for free." He slumped into a chair beside her. "The Council wants to meet with Earth's representatives, talk about full membership status. Something about unique technological perspectives and uncorrupted communication systems." Amara laughed, though it hurt. "We save them with radio and stubbornness, the two things humans do best." Vincent sobered. "What happens to the parasite?" "They're still analyzing it. Some think it was a weapon designed by a species that lost Council membership centuries ago. Others think it evolved naturally in the network itself, an emergent intelligence born from mistranslation." She shook her head. "Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is that we stopped it. Because everyone ignored you. Because you were just a human, and Keshra was just dying and nobody important was paying attention. Sometimes," Amara said softly, "being underestimated is the greatest advantage you can have." The Council reconvened a week later, with hardened communication for redundancy in their systems. Humanity was granted full Council membership, their primitive technology suddenly valuable as a failsafe against digital threats. Amara stood in the chamber again, but this time not in the observation gallery. This time she stood on the floor, Earth's official representative, her voice carrying weight and authority. She thought of Keshra, dying on this same floor, using ancient hand signs because she couldn't trust the very technology designed to bring species together. She thought of all the times humanity had been dismissed, ignored, considered too young or too simple to matter in galactic affairs, and she smiled, because sometimes the greatest strength lies not in being the most advanced, the most powerful, or the most respected. Sometimes it lies in being underestimated, in having tools others consider obsolete, in being willing to listen when everyone else is too important to hear the truth. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way, and they would never ignore a human, or a dying Valith, again.